Today's project will require the use of your colored pencils, a regular pencil, and a piece of white paper. Hi class, it's Mrs. Latinsky. Welcome to our art lesson today. Today I'm inspired by all the flowers growing in my neighborhood. Right now we have tulips and daffodils and hyacinths, and I like to appreciate flowers by drawing them or painting them. It's one of the ways I get to understand them better. An artist who did a really great job of this was named Georgia O'Keeffe, and she's famous for her artwork involving flowers. She did over 200 paintings of flowers, and the way she did them was often an extreme close up, like so close you could see every little bit in detail of the flowers. So, we're going to learn a little bit from her technique and also study the element of art texture and the principle of design pattern. This painting by Georgia O'Keeffe is called Pink Tulip. It may not look much like a tulip to you or a tulip that you've ever seen, but keep in mind this is an extreme close-up of a tulip. You can see there's pink petals here, and these are the inner parts of the tulip, but also pay attention to the way she shows texture. You can see the rough outlines here make these parts seem like they have a bit more of a rough texture. There's pattern in here as well. Tulips, petals repeat. When I was looking at tulips closely in my backyard, I counted 6 petals. I don't know if all tulips have 6 petals, but the ones in my yard do. And you can see the repetition. There's one, and that looks like another one, and another one. And this is another one. You can see it's curved, and you can see the inside of this one. And here's another one. This is a tulip from my backyard. I thought it was interesting how it opened up so wide, but you can also see, like what O'Keeffe was showing us, when you zoom in close, the different textures. You can see the different lines and patterns that are within the petal itself. Now, here's a drawing my daughter Grace did of one of the spring flowers. This might be a tulip, I'm not entirely sure, but it's sort of a pinkish colored one, kind of like the one that Georgia O'Keeffe did. You can see how she shows a more rough and jagged texture on the leaf by doing these little crinkly lines. And she has the pattern of different petals, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 on there's too. And here she zooms in a bit more. Here's an example my daughter Lizzie did of a tulip, and she looked at it from different perspectives as well. Here we have the overall tulip, and here we have the extreme close-up of a tulip. And she also did one here, was all closed up. Lizzie kind of shows the texture of the tulip petals a bit. You can see some of them have a bit more jagged outline, and some places it's more smooth. And she just does that with the line by making it straight, or places where it kind of cuts in a little bit. I'm going to put my paper in landscape orientation, and I'm going to create a line straight down the center, just lightly like this at first. And then I'm going to create another line down this part, this direction. And this part, we're going to show a zoom out of our tulips. We're going to show some tulips, the full tulip plant. Here, we're going to do a zoom in for that extreme close up like Georgia O'Keeffe did. And here, I want to do a little bit more zoomed in, different perspective. So we're going to look at the tulip in 3 different ways. The tulip petal is sort of this shape. It's not entirely pointed. Now the other ones kind of go behind it just like that. Here's another one, and you can't see the whole thing, but they kind of curve like that. So we have 3 petals. We're going to need to have 6 of them. So we're going to start here, and I keep working my way back and up. Here's another one right here. And then I'm going to do another tulip over here, and we're going to do the same kind of thing. This one's going to have the first petal in the front that I can see, and another one. Maybe this one will be a little bit more open because I kind of made that last one really tight. Now we have the stems, and the stems are kind of thick for the tulip, and they go down and long. And this one here is going to, I think these are going to cross over each other. This one will go behind. That's just kind of the way they're leaning. Tulip leaves, they're sort of thicker at the bottom. They come up to a point, and they come from way down here, curve up, and then they go down like that. That's a tulip leaf. So they come from the bottom, go up, kind of down to a point like that. Oops, you're going to go through and erase the parts that you wouldn't see, because I know that this leaf is going to be in the front. Okay, we've got that one ready. We're not going to color them yet. Now we're going to go to our zoom in, our Georgia O'Keeffe style massive zoom in. I'm going to create kind of a center to this tulip. I mean, it's roughly kind of a jagged circle. When you draw your petals, don't feel like you need to do really straight lines. You could make them a little rough and jagged to show that texture on each of the petals. Some of these are going to be curled over, so I'm going to show how here maybe it looks like it. See how it curled over? All I did is just make it a smoother line underneath of it. So if you have one that's a little rougher, what you can do is connect the edges and then it looks like it's been curled up. That's a fun little trick, huh? Now I can focus on the details of the center. We have 6 of these here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And they have a little pointed kind of like Q-tip head on them. Yeah, I'm going to have one leaf here and it's going to be more rumpled. Remember, we're up close on this one, rumply. Show that texture. There we go. One. The other one's going to come up this way. 2, and they come together at the bottom. And then there's one peak in here. And it's actually going to disappear off the top, kind of like Georgia O'Keeffe did. So we're only really going to see 3 petals here because we're looking up from the bottom. You could actually kind of hint there's one down there. And then you're going to have the stem right there coming out of it. So real close up, but we're looking at it from more on the bottom of the tulip. That's sort of fun. And you won't see all these inner parts when you look at it from this perspective because these petals are blocking everything. I'm going to use a red, I'm going to use a red orange, and a golden yellow. And these are just out of my Crayola 12 pack, but this looks like the same color scheme for the tulips I had at my house. So I'm going to try to make them like that. Lightly cover the whole thing in red orange. So the center of each of these petals is a darker red. And you're going to have to curve that because each of these petals, you have to think about where the center of that petal would be because all these petals curve a bit. So you have to kind of, the center would sort of follow the same angle. The ones in my garden have yellow on the outsides. So on the outsides and the very tips, I take yellow. You don't have to do this, but this is just the ones that are in my garden and I really like them. So I'm going to do it a lot like that. Oh, I have a cat. Hi, Toby. Toby's wearing a cone. He had a surgery. Hi, sweetheart. Now we're going to do the tulip stems. And I like to, Toby, your tail's in the way. Let's move your tail out of the way. Yeah, sorry. I'm going to move your tail out of the way. I can't color if your tail's in the way. I'm going to color the stem dark green. And I think the leaves tend to be a lighter color. So I'm going to use my lighter green on the leaves. I'm going to take my darker green again. And in the center of the leaf, there's a line. A little bit of texture. I think it's called a vein going through the center. I'm also going to outline these leaves in dark green instead of pencil. It looks nicer. Once again, we're going to pick up that base color, that red orange, that medium color. Use that same red orange to color everything except for the very center and those little curled up edges, which we're going to make yellow later. There's a pattern in the petals. There's 6 petals. And they repeat and they have the exact same coloring scheme with this orange, red base, and yellow on the outsides. Now we can focus on the dark red parts, which is in the center. Remember, there's that line through the center. Now we're focused in more so you can do more detail. There's actually quite a few lines here and they just sort of spread out like a fan. Now there's lots of yellow. Now we get to take our yellow. I'm going to use the golden yellow. The most important one is just the center piece right here. This is very yellow. But all these curly edges are yellow. The center elements, they have kind of a, I'm going to say, kind of a chalky kind of texture. So I'm making it really rough. And then now we're going to do our side view of the flower. And we take that medium color and we're going to cover the whole thing. We can go on next to those darker center. We draw that line down the center and it's going to curve along with the shape of that. And then it's going to fan out to the edges a bit more. And the yellows form those edges. Do the stem now. There we have it. There's the finished project. Thanks for doing art with me today. I hope you enjoyed it and you learned some different perspectives on drawing flowers.